Hi everybody, my name is Fred. Welcome to Personal Time Outdoors. This video is going to be the debrief or the companion video to the one on my channel featuring our Allegheny River Canoe Camping trip. That trip was the third trip that I had taken in that area. Back in 2016 I did a similar 15-mile trip, and in 2017 I did a 30-mile trip. Both of those trips were when I was a leader with the Boy Scouts of America. I've since retired from that position, but I had such a good time on both of those trips that I wanted to go back and share it with my wife so she could enjoy it as well. Now, as you can see from my video, the scenery on the Allegheny River is absolutely stunning. Between the water, the mountains, and the wildlife, the forest, it's just absolutely beautiful. That said, I will say that there are some areas on the river where you will pass cottages and trailers and other riverfront property, but there are plenty of sections that are just forested, as you can see from my video. I will say that it is an easy river to canoe on. It's classified as a beginner river, and I would even say that children who are old enough to handle a canoe paddle could do it easily. The canoe livery that we used is called Outback Adventures. They're located in Tionesta, PA. Now, to be clear, I'm not affiliated with them in any way. I don't get any kind of a kickback, or I don't have any kind of arrangement with them. But they are the canoe livery that I use, so that's the experience that I can share. There are other canoe liveries in that area that do offer similar trips, but I've never used them, so I really don't have any information that I can share with you regarding those. One thing that did attract me to Outback Adventures is that they have a camping area on their property where they will rent you a campsite for a small fee. So for us, traveling from the Cleveland area, that was very appealing because we were able to arrive the night before our trip as opposed to trying to rush there to get there in the morning for a departure time. Also, what I liked is with their trips, they take you upriver and you canoe back to their location, so at the end you're back to where your vehicle is and you're ready to go home. I can tell you that the staff there seemed very friendly. The gentleman that we dealt with, he was very cordial and he was very helpful, and I will say that from what I could see, their equipment seems to be well maintained as far as the canoes, the paddles, and the life jackets that they provide. There's also a flush bathroom in their camping area. Now, it is a little bit rustic, but I will say that it is a step up from a typical latrine because there is a flush toilet and a sink with running water. There's also a shower on the property. I did not use it, but based on what I could see, it's one of those deals where it's a shower head on a wall with a privacy fence around it. They also have water in the campsites. They've got tubing with spigots in each campsite, so you can get potable water, which does make it nice. There's also fire rings and picnic tables in the campsites as well. I'll leave a link in the description for their website so you can check out their current pricing and the trips that they offer. The trip that we took was the 15-mile Latitude to Tionesta trip. I'm going to switch you over to the map right now to show you the logistics of that trip so you can see just how it works. The trip we took in the video ran from the town of Latitude, which is located up here on the map, and we ended up in Tionesta, which is down here on the map. The canoe livery, Outback Adventures, is located near Tionesta. They are just across the Route 62 bridge, which goes across the river on the west side of the river, right around in this area here. What they do is when you're ready to go, they load up the canoes and the paddles, the life jackets, all your camping gear in their trailer, and they drive you up Route 62 up to Latitude, and that's where they put you in. One thing to note on this river, on this 15-mile trip, you are going to cross under 3 bridges. The first one is right at the beginning of the trip here in Latitude. The second one is the West Hickory Bridge, which is right here about roughly the midway point of the trip. And then the last one is that Route 62 bridge near Tionesta, which is right where the trip ends. As I zoom in here, I'll show you where they drop you off. They'll take you across this bridge into Latitude, and right in this area, right around here, there is a boat launch area. It looks like it's some sort of a public park that has a boat launch, and that's where they put you in. From this point, you make your way down the river, and as you can see, you'll pass several small islands as you make your way downriver. You may find some campsites on some of these islands, some small campsites. For example, if you note in the video, I mentioned that we stopped for a place to eat our lunch. That was on one of these small islands somewhere in this area here. I'm not sure which one offhand. And there was a small campsite there. I didn't film it, but there was a small campsite there right where we were eating our lunch. Probably something that would fit, maybe 2 to 3 tents at most. Definitely not something that you'd want to use for a large group. The island that we did camp on is called Hemlock Island. It's located right here as I zoom in. It's about midway in the trip. And as you can see, as you're approaching, coming from this direction, you've got the option to either travel down the west side of the island or down the east side of the island. The campsite that we stayed at, and most of the good campsites, are here on the east side of the island. I would say probably the first northern half of the island along this area here that I'm highlighting is where you're going to find the really nice campsites. As you're coming down, just keep your eye out for like rocky beach areas that have paths or steps, like stone steps that lead up onto the island, and that's pretty much a good indicator that there's a campsite there. I'm going to guess just from memory that there's probably about 6 established fire rings along here, and they are spread out somewhat, so you might be able to see through the trees some of the other tents, but you will have a fair amount of privacy when you pick one of these sites. As you're coming through, if you happen to see campers at the first site, just keep going. Look for the next area where you can pull over and then get out and check it out, and you'll probably find a good site there. One thing to keep in mind, if you do pass up a site, it is very difficult to paddle back up river if you change your mind and decide you want to go back to it. I'm not saying you can't do it, but it's going to be a pretty tough job to get yourself back up river. So if you see a good site and you think it's going to work for you, you might be better off just grabbing it rather than passing it on to see if you can find something better. I am aware of one site that is here on the west side of the island. It's probably somewhere around this area. It is a smaller site though, much smaller than the ones that are over here on the east side. But if you only have maybe 2 to 3, maybe 4 tents at most, that site will probably work for you. One thing to note that I forgot to mention, as you're coming down here, the bank here is pretty steep, so you really can't see the camping areas from the water. You do have to get out and kind of go up the bank to kind of investigate and see if there's something there that you can use. If by chance you pass Hemlock Island, or it seems like it's too full or too many tents there, I am aware of a couple campsites down here as you continue down on King Island, which is right here. Now, the way to find King Island, one way to find King Island, is to remember that after you cross under the West Hickory Bridge, it's going to be the very next island. Now, the West Hickory Bridge, that is the bridge that you see us crossing under in the video, so that gives you some idea what it looks like. But anyway, after you cross under that bridge, just watch for the next island, and that should be King Island, which is right here. The two sites that I am aware of are both on the eastern side of the island. One's probably somewhere in this area here on the northern end of the island, and the other one's down, closer to the southern end of the island, perhaps somewhere in here. One thing to note, these are smaller sites, again, probably 2 to 3 tents. Definitely not something for a large group, but if you have a small group or you're by yourself, you can definitely make those work. From that point, you're just going to basically finish up the trip by continuing on down to Tionesta to go back to Outback Adventures. And I'll keep the map zoomed in here. As you come down, you're going to cross underneath this Route 62 bridge. And Outback Adventures is really right after the bridge here. It's going to be on your right-hand side. So after you cross that bridge, just keep your eyes open for kind of a muddy beach area, and just pull off to the side there, and you'll be back at Outback Adventures. They'll have a sign there that'll instruct you to pull the canoe up to. There's like a grassy area on the bank where they want you to put the canoe. And then also they ask that you return the paddles and the life jackets back to their shed. I am going to leave GPS coordinates in the description for Hemlock Island, for King Island, and for where you end up here at Outback Adventures. A couple of points I'd like to bring up about camping on the river islands. Most of the islands are in the national forest, so they are open to camping in any location that you can find. There are some islands on the river that are privately owned though, so you do have to be mindful of signage that posts them as private property or signs that might say no camping allowed. That said, there are not a ton of campsites on the islands. You will see that some of the islands have smaller sites. If you only have 1 or 2 tents, they'll probably work for you. But a lot of the islands have grass on them that's waist high, so they're really not too good for camping. The island that we stayed at, Hemlock Island, at least in the section of the river that we were on, seems to be the best place for camping. It has a lot of wide open areas where you can set up tents. That said, it is posted as private property, and the owners have a sign up there that say that they do permit camping on their island, but there are some rules on that sign that they ask you to follow. Now, I didn't think to take a picture of that sign, but the rules that were posted on there are what you might expect. Things such as only using established fire rings, packing out your trash, no discharging of firearms, that sort of thing. Now, camping on the river islands is primitive camping. There are no latrines, there's no running water. Be sure to bring some water with you, or if you like, you can filter or treat water from the river, which is what we did. I would also like to say that I did see some evidence on the island of inexperienced campers using it. Specifically, I'm speaking about evidence of 5-gallon bucket toilets being used. And in fact, one person seems to have left the bags from their bucket toilet behind. I'm going to give you a screenshot from part of the video that I didn't use that'll show you that they left these bags, full bags I might add, in the woods kind of back behind the campsite. Now, it goes without saying that this is something that should not be done. One of the rules on the sign that I mentioned was to bury all feces. Now, to be clear, that does not mean bury the bags from the bucket toilet. That means using a cat hole. If you're not familiar with a cat hole, there's plenty of videos on YouTube that demonstrate how to make and use a cat hole. Please check those out so that you're familiar with the process if you're not already. And I would like to say that if you are not comfortable using a cat hole, then maybe primitive camping on a river island is not for you. Instead, you might consider staying at a commercial campground, or maybe going back to Outback Adventures and booking a second night there where they do have that bathroom that I mentioned. You would be much more comfortable doing it that way. Now, if you are somebody who absolutely thinks that you have to bring your 5-gallon bucket toilet with you, the only thing I would say is please, please, please pack out the bags when you're done. You can easily pick those up and put them back in that bucket that you brought, put the lid on it, and take them with you and dispose of them properly. Finally, I would just like to say that if the owner of Hemlock Island happens to see this video, I would just like to personally thank them for allowing people to camp there. And I hope that moving forward, people will follow the rules that you have posted so that you can continue to allow people to camp on your island. That about wraps up this video. If you have any questions or anything that I may have forgotten to mention, please leave them in the comments. And thanks for watching.